The other week, I made a video about Jinx and Caitlyn's confrontation in the cell, and I decided to briefly give a bit more thought to something that I have already mentioned in that video, Jinx's hair. From the very first time we see her, through the time she spent with Wanda, her Jinx under Silco's fatherhood phase, middle breakdown, to the moment when we see her for the very last time. Now, first time we see Powder, she's cut in a very similar way to Vi. Clearly at this point it was Felicia, the mom, cutting their hair. Unless there's some hairdresser in Zone, but granted citizens of Zone probably had more important matters to attend to. Around where I live, that haircut is actually called the mushroom. I think honestly it really comes from lack of better ideas. I used to have that one. It's just easy to handle. I think Felicia decided to go for it because she was spending a lot of time in the mine, so they didn't really have any time to properly take care of their hair. When Wanda took them in, it's interesting because while Vi's hair resembled that of Wanda's, seriously, it's almost identical, Powder already had a braid very similar to the one her mother had, probably knitted by Vi. I mean, I can't imagine Wanda doing that with his big wolf hands, to commemorate the mother, remind them of where they came from, the very first protector. Show is telling us that while Vi is so obviously a successor to Wanda's teaching, Wanda's ideals, even the way Wanda approached violence, Powder, contrary to what we might think later on, is actually a good, gentle being that encountered horrible circumstances shaping her into someone she shouldn't have become. She is Felicia's daughter, as we know from alternate reality. She even dances in a similar way. When Silco takes her in, now that's another story. She assumes her iconic League of Legends look, with two braids that seem to be telling us there's still something good, Felicia-related within her. However, she's now mostly connected to Silco, while front of her hair is similar to that of Silco's, especially in his Wanda and Felicia friendship period. Her braids seem to symbolize everything that's been weighing her down. The guilt, the anger, the grief, all that's been lost. It doesn't look like Silco once cut her hair ever since she's been separated from Vi, which speaks a lot of his parenthood skills as well. Her hair standing for all the dreadful, distressing emotions. It also seems like her hair was a representation of her strength, pushing her forward, despite losing so much, despite the grief. Now, I've often wondered who actually did her braids, and it doesn't seem like there's anyone out there who could have done it other than Silco, which is actually very important as well. He didn't care to cut it, because he was nurturing the guilt within Jinx, and he shaped her into what he wanted her to be, basically his accomplice. Once Jinx lost Isha and Wanda, again, she untangled her braids. They surrounded her in a very dramatic look. Everything that's happened to her, everything that's been lost, each bit standing for an event that weighed her down, structured her, no longer braided into what Silco was shaping her to be, without any identity of her own. She was lost, disoriented, she has clearly given up. Once she escapes the cell, influenced by Silco's speech telling her she has to remove herself from the cycle of violence. Visually, her hair turns into a gemstone we have seen not long before imagined by her in the cell. Gemstone, a trigger of all the prior events that led to the deaths of people that she cared for. Used by her in Season 1 leading to Wanda's death. Used by Isha in Season 2, leading to her own death. And Wanda, once again, being taken away. She decides to end her life. She cuts her hair, severs herself from it, and destroys all her past connections to Silco, his chair. The last drop that no doubt she also sees as part of Wanda. What's interesting is the fact that while Jinx's hair resembled that of Vi's in the very first scene, then that of Felicia's, that of Silco, it never resembled that of Wanda's, except for alternate reality, where she was happy, in love, accomplished, where she becomes Wanda's true successor, in fact the only place where she becomes one. And finally, Jinx's hair, in the very last scenes we see her in, very last moments of Arcane, is not only dyed partially to purple, Felicia's hair color standing for Jinx finding the good in herself, the gentleness she no doubt inherited from her mother, hood resembling Isha surrounding it. It also is, very much like in the first scene, cut in the very same way as Vi's hair. Jinx becomes a sister, assumes the ideals passed on to her not from Wanda, not from Silco, but from Vi.
Always with you, sis.
She accepts the love and protection Vi provided. She disconnects herself from what was weighing her down, and from Silco. When they say goodbye to each other, Jinx is no longer shaped by anyone else as much as she is shaped by her sister Vi. thank you so much for watching. As always, major shout out to my patrons for supporting me.